I'm Stu Shell, president of Helping Hands to the World. Let's take a trip together today. We'll journey halfway around the world to the country of Liberia and its capital city of Monrovia. Located in West Africa, Liberia was founded by American slaves who were set free and returned to Africa. Liberia means land of freedom. Today, 3 million people call Liberia home. The Liberian flag is a symbol of the history of the Liberian state, its relationship with America, and its search for its own identity. Just like America, Liberia endured a horrendous civil war. While the U.S. Civil War lasted 4 years, Liberia's raged 14 long years, ending in 2004. Today, there is relative peace in the country, yet peacekeeping forces are still present to help protect the fragile stability of the country. The U.S. and the government of Liberia are dedicated to working together and helping the country during its reconstruction. Once a prosperous country, today Liberia is one of the poorest nations in the world. Most of the country's buildings, roads, and bridges were destroyed in the Civil War. The economy was shattered, with current unemployment running at 86%. Running water, sewage treatment, and electricity are non-existent. Over 250,000 people were killed, and over 1 million Liberians fled as refugees to neighboring countries. Children were kidnapped, brainwashed, and trained to be soldiers to commit horrendous acts of violence, which they did with machetes and AK-47s, often while under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Entire villages were destroyed, women raped, limbs amputated, children slaughtered as their parents were forced to watch. Unspeakable acts of evil were carried out in what has become known as one of the worst cases of tribal genocide the world has ever seen. Former dictator Charles Taylor has been arrested and is awaiting trial for crimes against humanity. In 2005, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf became the first democratically elected female president in all of Africa. Christians and certain tribal groups like the Kron tribe were specifically targeted by rebel troops. Refugees from Liberia lived in squalor conditions in refugee camps like this one in Budaburam, Ghana. It was in this camp that Pastor Irving Kofa, his wife Alice, and their 12 children came to live. They had miraculously escaped from Liberia after being hunted by rebel troops. These troops burned down their home, their church, and their school. While in hiding, the Kofa family went without food for 2 months, surviving only on water and tea. After hearing of their need, the Shell family, relatives, and friends responded with resources of food, clothing, and medicine. They helped the Kofas purchase building materials, and the refugees constructed a church building. As more orphans flooded into the refugee camp, the church was expanded and became a school during the week. The Kofas named it the Shell Family School in honor of the primary sponsors. When the United Nations stopped their food program, the Shell Family School began a daily feeding program for the students. Even though it was a simple meal of rice, vegetables, and water, it was the only meal the orphans could count on eating. In 2007, my son Evan and daughter Bethany joined me for a visit to the school. We got to experience the joy of the children firsthand that we had been supporting. A year later, the government of Ghana closed down the refugee camp, including our school. Refugees were forced to leave, some to other countries, but most went back to Liberia. Their homecoming yielded mixed results. Yes, they were glad to be back in their home country, but what they found was that their homes, schools, and churches had been burned down. This is what happened in the village of Dudwicken. Pastor Kofa's school, orphanage, and medical clinic were all destroyed. The only source of clean water had been polluted with dead bodies tossed down their well. Since that happened, the only source of drinking water has been the river, where the villagers also wash clothes and bathe. In response to this need, the Shell Family School expanded their vision and mission and became Helping Hands to the world. Helping Hands sent a representative team to Dudewicken to share their vision of working with the villagers to build a new well, a new school, a new orphanage and medical clinic. Out of the ashes would rise new buildings. The news was greeted with great joy and a 10-minute standing ovation from the whole village, including women dancing. In response, the tribal chiefs donated 150 acres of land to Helping Hands for the project. Since many of the villagers, including children, had become sick and died from contaminated water, providing clean water became priority number one for Helping Hands. Thanks to generous donors, $4,000 was collected for the water well project. That proved to not be the biggest hurdle to completing the project. Due to its remote location, there's only one road to Dudewicken. Even during the dry season, mud 2 feet deep had to be navigated by a 4-wheel drive truck filled with supplies and building materials. Rain and flat tires didn't help matters at all, but the team from Well Done Organization finally arrived in Dudewicken to begin their work. The location of the well was determined, and work began with prayer. With no access to electricity, a generator, or well drilling equipment, the simplest tools were used. Workers and dirt were hauled to the surface via ropes. Eventually, a hole 38 feet deep was dug before water was found. To prevent the well from collapsing, concrete culverts were constructed. Building blocks were built. Then the culverts were lowered via a tripod. A base was built and cemented to prevent contamination of the water. The well was marked to designate the partnership between the Shell Family Helping Hands School and the Well Done Organization. The piping is installed, and finally, finished product, crystal clear, clean, fresh water. Tribal chiefs and villagers gathered together to dedicate the water well. They expressed thanks to God for using Helping Hands to the World and the Well Done Organization for providing them with the first clean well water they've had in 14 years. The dedication day was December 24th, Christmas Eve. Part of Helping Hands' mission is empowering people to help themselves. We are partnering with the villagers for the rebuilding of the orphanage, medical clinic, and school. We were able to provide these brick-making tools and forms. While some villagers are making the bricks, others are constructing a storage building for 20,000 bricks. That will be enough for the construction of 2 dormitories, one for 50 boys and one for 50 girls. There will also be rooms for the caretakers, a covered kitchen area, and a latrine. Childhood diseases and malnutrition are only 2 of the many health problems that are acutely impacting Liberians. With your help, Helping Hands plans to build a medical clinic in Dudewicken to help meet those needs. We can't heal the wounds so many Liberians have suffered in the past, yet we can help make a difference. Helping Hands wants to turn their mourning into joy. We will be changing lives, one orphan at a time. You can join with Helping Hands to the World and make a positive impact in Liberia. Each of us can contribute of our resources, whether a little or a lot. Together, we can help Liberians live a better life and provide an environment where life and health can prosper.